I think I was maybe 14 or 13 when I saw that. And I was like, mate, I'm like, that's me. That's what I have. I have Tourette syndrome.
Hey everybody, it's Ben. If you missed my update last week or the week before, you may not know that I'm traveling right now and had to schedule this episode for release well in advance. So if anything big happened in the Tourette world or the greater world, I don't know about it yet because I'm speaking from the past. So if there's a noticeable absence of something I should be talking about here, it's because as I speak right now, it is September 19th, speaking from the past. But our guest this week has something awesome in his future. I'm sorry, that's like really bad script writing on my part. But seriously, our guest this week is Dimi from Australia. And speaking of the future, it was still Sunday for me when I was talking with him on Monday afternoon, if that makes any sense. Major time zone difference between where I am and where he is, but certainly worth it because I got to hear about how he's planning to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania for Tourette Awareness. I mean, we connected online and I was like, yeah, we have to talk. And we do, about how this plan came to be, why Mount Kilimanjaro, and of course we dissect his life with Tourette syndrome, and I don't want to delay. Here's me and Dimi.
Okay, my name is Dimi. I'm 40 years old and I live in Melbourne, Australia. I work as a mortgage broker, and I've been working in real estate just before that, maybe for the past 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I just started working as a mortgage broker.
Okay. And so as I speak right now, it's 11 p.m. my time on the East Coast of the United States. So it's, I guess, early in the afternoon there in Melbourne. Are you from Melbourne, or did you grow up elsewhere in Australia?
I'm originally from Melbourne. My parents, they're from Macedonia. They moved to Australia when they were about 17, 18 years old, and I was born here in Melbourne. And yeah, the time now in Melbourne is just past 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon.
Right. Yeah. We're still in Sunday, my time zone.
Yeah, we're in the future. I know what's coming.
Well, part of me kind of wants to build up to what you're about to do, but I kind of at the same time sort of want to go ahead and hit this and then kind of reach back and get to kind of what led up to it. But in roughly mid-2019, you have something big coming up. But I'll just let you take it from here and describe what you're going to do.
Yeah, I'm planning on climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in May, and I'm hoping to do it around the same time for Tourette Awareness Week, so I could raise awareness for Tourette syndrome.
Yeah, so climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. So obviously climbing is something that you're highly experienced in. I mean, is that kind of your background? Do you have an outdoorsman kind of background?
Not really. Growing up, all of my friends, we used to go for drives, and one of my friends, we used to take his dad's car and we'll go for a drive to the country, to the bush, and we used to go for walks, and I hated it. I just couldn't stand it. And recently I started going for walks and things like that, and I was in Vietnam in May for my birthday. Okay. And we went to this place called Sapa. It's one of the, I think it's the highest mountain in Vietnam.
Okay.
And we went hiking. There was a 2-day hike, and I loved it. I thought this was the best thing. It was so hard. So I went there with my friend, and on the second day, our guide said, "You can come with me. I'm going to go the hard way, or you can go with the other guide, which is the easy way." So I thought, because I'm such a big, strong man, I'll take the hard way. And I think it was about 20 minutes into it. I was just sitting going, "This is going to kill me. This is so hard," and it was so hot. I was covered in sweat. By the time we finished, I think it took us 5 hours to get to the checkpoint where we jump into the van to go back to the hotel.
Yeah.
I was drenched. My friends just looked at me and a few other people that I was with, and he goes, you guys look like death. But it was something I enjoyed it so much. And I said, I want to start doing it again. So I started going on little hikes in Melbourne, and I saw this. I saw lots of things on Mount Kilimanjaro, and I thought it'd be cool to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And at the same time, I was kind of looking into. I was getting more involved with Tourette's and looking into it. And I found out the Tourette's Association in Australia, in America, and Canada, and saw that there's a big community behind it. Mm-hmm. And I always felt like Tourette's was one of those illnesses where it was okay to make fun of the person. Like you always see in the movies, it's that the person who swears and screams like in Deuce Bigelow, Mabel Gigolo, the movie. It's always okay to make fun of the person with Tourette syndrome, but if a person has some other kind of mental illness, you can't. It's really taboo. So,
right. Yeah.
I wanted to do this climb just to show, just to bring to awareness to Tourette syndrome, what it really is, how it really affects people, and also all the struggles that I've got in my life through school, being picked on, teachers not understanding what it is, and probably the biggest bullies I had through school was actually the teachers, the way they treated me, not knowing what Tourette syndrome is, and also looking for jobs and trying to get work and things like that. So I thought, I thought I wanted to climb in, and then as I found out about Tourette Awareness Month, I wanted to kind of time it all together and let's just document it as I go up and hopefully bring awareness so people know what exactly Tourette syndrome is.
So are you kind of counting on news coverage and sort of how do you plan to actually bring awareness to it and have outside eyes and ears kind of come to it and have you explain what, your background with Tourette syndrome is?
So I've started doing a little bit on social media. So as my lead up there, I'm doing lots of training. So I'm showing all my training and food that I'm eating to how I'm getting into shape. And hopefully when it does get closer, I'm going to contact a few media outlets and say, it's Tourette's Awareness Month and I'm about to go do this climb. And hopefully when I do, I can come back up to show all the footage and things like that. And spread the word, hopefully through media, radio, TV, and things like that.
So are you doing anything special to kind of train for this thing in particular? I mean, I guess you haven't climbed Mount Kilimanjaro before. So so this is going to be your first time up, right?
Yeah, it's going to be my first time. Yeah, probably doing anything that big ever.
Yeah.
So I've watched a whole bunch of videos just to see what to expect, and so I started doing lots of fitness training. So I try and run at least 5Ks a day. I think that's 3 miles a day. I'm going to the gym. I'm trying to get up really early and just try and get mentally strong. So to do that, I'm forcing myself to get up at 5 a.m. Go to the gym, do some training, do some strength training. So when I am doing the climb, my body's not going to just halfway through it just melt down and say, I can't do this anymore. So lots of yoga and things like that, getting really flexible. And also, I'm starting to get into pretty good shape, which is kind of a good side effect of the whole thing.
You had mentioned, and kind of talking about this and the story that you have to tell, your background with unfair treatment and even with teachers and all that. I mean, when did you start to exhibit tics, and how did that have a bearing on friends and social life and things like that, and maybe just kind of give us the primer on your background with Tourette syndrome.
Well, I got diagnosed quite late. I think I was in my early 20s. But I used to work in a nightclub, and I used to be audio visual, so all the lights and the music and things like that.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, I had a friend that was a doctor, and he said, you look like you have Tourette syndrome. So I ended up going to a GP, and I went and got, they referred me to a neurologist, and that's when he told me, I think I was maybe 23, 24, when I officially got diagnosed with Tourette's.
And how old are you now?
I'm now 40 years old.
Okay, gotcha.
But the earliest memory that I have of Tourette syndrome was maybe when I was like around 9 years old, 19 years old. I used to do these things with my finger. I used to blow on my fingers, and also my right hand to go like that. Just I used to like wave. Do you like when like an old game cartridge? People used to get it and they blow the game cartridge.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I used to do that with my fingers. I used to just, it's always my right hand. I would just blow on my four fingers, and yeah, like I don't know, like I just that's the earliest memory I have. That and opening my jaw. I used to look like I was talking to myself, but I was just open really wide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those have gone, and now like the main tics that I have, my eyebrows twitch. I blink quite a bit, and I do head nods, and also a little bit like sometimes I do shoulder shrugs, and my right arm will like sometimes like just it'll kick out.
Yeah.
Which is pretty bad when you're walking through the city and you kind of just elbow someone. You're like, oh, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Please, like I'm very sorry. So,
does that happen?
Yeah. Sometimes I go like that. Like probably my arm extending out. I might do it maybe once every few days. I've also noticed it depends on the clothes I'm wearing. If I'm wearing like tight fitted clothes, that's more when the shoulder shrugs start coming out a bit more. And yeah, and my arm, like my elbow would just twitch out and kind of like, yeah, it's just like do a quick a quick twitch. I think it's one of those things that it's not really, you don't really notice as much as the facial tics and things like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the arm twitching probably happens once every few days. It'll just bang come out, and I'll do it like a few times in a row, and then I'll stop for a few days, and then it'll come back again.
That's interesting. So reaching back into your youth, and you can remember having tics of some shape or form. I mean, the blowing on the fingers and everything, and then much later in life is when the trip to the neurologist came after the doctor who just kind of saw you socially or knew you socially said you might have Tourette syndrome. Did you already have an inkling as to what you had? I mean, obviously your tics were on your radar, but did you kind of imagine what it could be, or?
Donnie, the first time I ever heard about Tourette syndrome was when I was watching NBA, and there was a player, Chris Jackson. His name's Mohamed Abdurrahim. Like, here's the first time I was watching him, and there was an NBA show, and they kind of did a spotlight on him, and they said he's Tourette syndrome, and I saw him do the head twitching and blinking, and I think I was maybe 14 or 13 when I saw that.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, that's me. That's what I have. I have Tourette syndrome. Yeah, that's as far as I took it. Like, I saw that. It was always in the back of my mind, though. I'm like, I've probably got Tourette syndrome.
Yeah.
But I never really knew what to do about it. And like, my mother just thought I was just different. It was always just like, oh, why didn't you stop doing that? Why didn't you stop doing that? And I don't think it was till maybe like a few years ago when I was talking to my mum about it, and she said, I can't remember your dad used to always. Cause my dad left when I was quite early, so I never knew him. So I never knew he had Tourette's. Mm-hmm. And my mum told me, oh yeah, now that I think about it, your dad used to do this thing where he always used to touch my knee with his hand. Like, he used to sit there and touch my knee.
Yeah.
And he had these few other little things. But that wasn't something I found out to my late 30s. Yeah, the first time I actually heard of Tourette syndrome was when I saw, I was watching the NBA, and I saw Mohamed Abdurrahim, and they brought it up.
Wow. I mean, and it's funny because it's just something I hear more and more and more when people's parents are maybe from a generation where the Tourette diagnosis was just not as common or not as heard of. And so that, they never really thought they had a reason to go get diagnosed. And then, you're in the generation where people have at least heard of it, and it's a diagnosis that goes around, but then you kind of recall certain things that your parents do that, or at least one of your parents or another family member does that fits the bill of Tourette syndrome and the hereditary nature of it. Well, after your diagnosis, did you have any conversation with your parents about that, or?
Yeah, I tried to explain to my mum what it is, and she denied it.
Huh.
She says, no, there's nothing wrong with you. I think she took it more of an insult to herself that, yeah, like she thinks it was her fault, whereas like it's no one's fault. It's just the way it is.
Of course not. Yeah.
Even now, she doesn't fully 100% acknowledge that I do have it.
Yeah, so, I mean, so that there's kind of a feeling of, I mean, I hate to use the word shame, but that association with Tourette syndrome, and I guess based on how society, just as you've experienced, society has kind of built Tourette syndrome and the ridicule and all that people kind of want to distance themselves from it. Were you ever able to resolve that?
No, not so much. No, actually, probably not at all, really. We don't really talk about it, and sometimes I try and explain to her if I'm in a bad mood, the best thing is just leave me alone. Stay like if you say something like that, I'll make my twitches a bit more, and I know depending on my mood, the way if I get really if my adrenaline starts pumping, that's when the tics completely come out. I even start swearing more. Even now, I'm really trying to control how much I swear, and I'm trying to be conscious of what I'm doing.
Okay.
But it kind of comes to a point where if my blood, like the adrenaline starts pumping, that's when it's like, this, that. It really comes out of me.
Yeah.
And I have to try to stop, settle down, take a deep breath, and just try and really calm myself down. But also with all this training now for Mount Kilimanjaro, I've noticed with the running, it settles me down quite a bit. So the more I push myself, the more relaxed I feel. So I kind of, I'm not always hyped up and red line in charge and ready to go. Because usually I'm a really hyperactive person.
Have you worried about tics that interfere with your ability to climb, or do you have tics that kind of take it out of you when you're trying to train or when you're actually being active?
No, I don't have anything, nothing like that. Some of my friends have said when I'm really concentrating on something, my tics seem to disappear, and I even get to the point where I stop blinking. Like just completely stop blinking.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the more I concentrate and focus on one thing that it just stops. Like I don't put some sort of barrier between my mind and Tourette's, but it doesn't really stop my training or anything like that.
Gotcha. But I totally relate to what you're saying when you can kind of zero in and focus on something. And it's the same thing for me. It's according to my fiance, when I'm stimulated by something or if I'm interested in something I'm seeing, I will start ticking, but it just doesn't bother me. I'm not noticing it when I'm doing it. If it's bothering anybody else, that's kind of on them. But
yeah,
it's but yeah, I mean, do you have other kind of things that or corners that you find yourself going into when you need to calm yourself down, or when you feel like your tics are bothering you, and ways to kind of get away from that?
I've tried to start meditating.
Okay,
but that doesn't work. That just brings in all the voices in my head, and it's just everything that I can't concentrate. It's like, did you turn the tap off? Is hot water running? Is the gas on? Did you leave the oven on? Did you have cookies? Do we have cookies? I'm not sure. I think we've got a barbecue tomorrow. What time's an appointment? I was like, I was thinking, oh my God, I just want to put my head in a bucket of water, just drown out all the sound. So I try to do that. I try and breathe. I just recently got a Fitbit for my training, and it's got this thing where it's just okay, breathe in like for 30 seconds, breathe out, and that kind of gets me to calm down. But it's something I think if I could just continue that breathing all day would be good. But yeah, so you can't really do that. So probably after a couple of minutes of stopping, I noticed the tics start coming back again, and yeah, I guess it depends. Like, also cutting out certain food. I know, like if I drink Coca-Cola, it's like a trigger for my Tourette. Just go, all right, here they are. I'm not going to stop them for the next few hours.
Huh. So is that, do you think that's more related to caffeine or sugar, or have you kind of pinpointed what that might be? Or
yeah, I think it's the caffeine and sugar in Coca-Cola. I've had some other soft drinks where I don't really notice it, but I really that kick from Coke really gets going. So I've tried to give up Coca-Cola, but when you're having pizza or hamburgers, Coca-Cola goes so good with it.
Well, when you were diagnosed, did you get any marching orders at that point, or did they try to give you any medication or any sort of list of options?
Yeah, I got given medication. I can't remember what it was called, but it was something. I'll take this tablet I have to take it twice a day. I'll take it once in the morning, and probably for the next 5 hours, it just turned me into a zombie. Yeah, and I just wanted to go back to bed. I couldn't do anything, and I think I took myself off it after a few months. Yeah. I would take it. I'll go to a friend's house, and I'll just want to go back to sleep again. So I did it. I did that once. I thought, no, I can't go back on this again.
Yeah, I mean, you so frequently hear that, and that was the case with me too, where I was put on a series of different kinds of drugs, and I think they all basically did, more bad than good, and I end up kind of wanting to, and you hear this again and again, and we're actually going to have somebody on the podcast at some point soon to talk about, where we're at with medication these days, because my experience, I think, kind of stopped in the mid-1990s is when I stopped taking medication. I've been kind of off since, but the reason is I decided that, within my own life, I just was more comfortable having Tourette syndrome and dealing with it. And in my case, that meant hiding it, but I'd rather take that and kind of live a closeted life than have these medications that just turn me into somebody I didn't know. With you, was there ever that sense, after diagnosis, did you have any sort of fears or shame or anything like that to where you kind of internalized it or kept it secret, or were you kind of open about it from that point?
Oh, by the time I got diagnosed, I told all my friends knew there was something there. So I told all my friends. So around them, I'm pretty much myself. But even before I got diagnosed, I tried really. I still do it now. I get quite self-conscious sometimes. I try and hide it, especially when I meet new people. I'm really concentrating. I was like, it just don't try and stop blinking. You're going to blink. Don't stop blinking. Don't move your eyebrows. And I'm being conscious, making sure like what's my neck doing is my head. But I don't think that just makes me so much more aware of it, and then I can feel it building up, and I feel like I just need to run away and just let all the tics out there and go back. Yeah. When I'm not thinking about it, I don't really feel them. Only now and then, sometimes I'll feel them that I'm doing it. But I didn't realize I used to blink a lot till I went around to my friend's house after school one day. And his little sister, like, why do you keep doing that with your eyes? And everyone was like, shush, don't say that. And I was like, no, wait, like, what am I doing? Like, I don't feel it. Like, I don't feel my tics. So I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. But especially if I go for job interviews and things like that, I try and hold it back so much.
Yeah, that's always the thing with me. I mean, so I've only been open about having Tourette syndrome in my adult life for the past year. Before that, I always hid it, always kept it under wraps. And I'm at the point now where I'm totally fine sharing it with people, answering questions, just kind of being open about it, ticking, around my coworkers. I mean, it doesn't bother me anymore, but it is always that one thing about meeting somebody who, may have some level of importance to them, or it's a job interview, or it's a new boss or a new coworker. And the first impression is always that thing where it's like, I want to have a good impression, and I want them to kind of understand me and who I am at the same time. I don't want to overwhelm them by saying off the bat, like, hey, I got Tourette syndrome, and if I do this, then it's that. I mean, I haven't mastered that. I still don't know how to do that. in a way where I feel like I can be myself and kind of communicate and not worry about Tourette syndrome and have them understand that. That's the math I just haven't really figured out yet, but that really resonates with me. Job interviews or someone that you work with or a client or that sort of thing, because you don't want to write yourself off so quickly with a bad first impression, even though it's just a misunderstanding on their part. But that's what I'm still wrestling with.
Yeah, that's one of the other reasons why I want to do this climb. It's just so Tourette syndrome gets out there. It's in the open, and people know if they see someone who has Tourette syndrome, they don't start thinking, "Oh, we can't have this person do this and that." They're a freak. We can't have them around here. It's like, right, no, this is what it is. Like I just blink more than you blink, and I do these things, but my brain it's a normal brain. I don't have weird thoughts and things like that. I just have these few little enhancements that make me a bit different.
Right. Yeah.
And because I remember the last job interview I went to, I saw a real estate job, and I was concentrating so hard not to do anything. And we were in the office, and everything was white in the office, and I was concentrating so hard not to blink. I could feel the walls, everything coming in, and I started getting like tunnel vision where I could just see the guy interviewing me.
Yeah,
and I got one point where everything just went white, and I was just feeling like I wanted to drop the pen or something just so I could bend over and just let everything out and sort of come back up again, like I'm just refreshed.
Yeah.
And I think we shouldn't have to hide these things. We should just be able to be in the open, be like, yeah, I've got Tourette's, and the other person goes, oh, okay, yeah, I know what that is, and
yeah, exactly.
Not think twice about it.
Yeah, that's a really debilitating thing. If you're basically at the point of fainting because of the potential misunderstanding between you and somebody who you're trying to impress, in the setting of a job interview. And I mean, your ability climbing Mount Kilimanjaro and kind of getting on the map for that, ideally, something like this is going to get out pretty far and wide. Have you kind of anticipated, how big of an audience this is going to get? Is it going to be mostly Australian or?
It's probably possible. Like, hopefully, it goes all around the world and everyone finds out about it. And just well, first when I started doing this, like when I found out about, because I didn't know there was such a big community online until I started. I think I just put Tourette syndrome in Twitter just to see what comes up, and I found all this stuff about it. And that's how I found about your podcast. I thought, oh, this is awesome. And I started listening to it, and then I saw I can't remember the guy's name. There's a soccer player, is it the goalkeeper for America? He has Tourette syndrome. And
Tim Howard,
Tim. And there's a guy on, I think it's America's Got Talent, or one of those shows. There's a
Samuel
comedian guy in there that has Tourette syndrome, and he's talking about it. Yeah, that's what I was like, there's people actually out there, like, but they've already like started like talking about it and things like that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and that also gives me like more motivation to keep doing. Sometimes I get down and I'm thinking, oh, why am I doing this? I'm just like, no one's going to care. Like, just stop and just get back with your life. But then I'm like, there's also a 5-year-old kid that's going to grow up with Tourette syndrome, and
absolutely.
So I kind of want to do it, for them, and so hopefully, like, it reaches places where, even in countries where they probably, like, there's some like people don't even know what Tourette's is, and then someone can see and they're, oh, okay, wait a minute, like that's me. Like, if this person's doing this and this, like, someone could play soccer for America or be in the NBA. And I can do anything as well.
You said it perfectly. Just that there's the one kid out there who maybe they haven't been diagnosed yet, maybe they were just diagnosed, or maybe their parents are worried about their future and they need to see these positive examples too. So that is why I hope what you do reaches as many television sets and radio stations and podcasts as possible. It's a really, really cool thing you're doing, and obviously I appreciate it on behalf of the community.
Oh, thank you.
With Mount Kilimanjaro in particular, and this might require a little bit of reiteration, but I just kind of want to reach back and just kind of capture the thought process a little bit more. Like, could you kind of re-describe the point, like this is something I got to do? This is, when did you kind of realize it and kind of plan it out in your head that this was going to be a real thing?
Well, it all probably started over a year ago. I knew I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what I was going to do. I bumped into this lady, and we started talking, and she introduced herself to me, and I can't remember what her name is, but just like she's gone, "Hi, my name's Amanda," and she leaned forward. She goes to me, "I'm a feminist." I thought, "Oh, okay." Like, that was I kind of threw me back a little bit the way she did that, and I was really interested. So I told her, I even said to her, I go, "Well, can you tell me a bit more about it? Because all I really know about feminism is what I see on Facebook and like people making fun and memes and this and that."
Yeah.
And she went through and started telling me everything about it, and the way she was talking about it, and like she also worked as a human rights lawyer, human rights lawyer. So I thought, well, if I'm going to learn from anyone, she'll be probably the perfect person to know to teach me about it. But she came from a place with such anger. She was almost like male bashing people, like males, and she always kept going back to that men get paid more. And I asked her, I go, well, what do you do with people who have mental illnesses? I go, I've got Tourette syndrome, and I've been out of work for 5 years, and I just cannot get a job. I'll take any paying job. And I go, how come you don't, like, what do you do for those people? Like, how come no one fights for them? And she just turned and looked at me and said, it's just not sexy enough.
Wow.
Yeah, like, I was stunned. I'm like, you're a human rights lawyer. You're not supposed to be doing what's sexy. You're not supposed to be doing for the Instagram likes. Like, this is,
yeah.
It's like, are you serious? Like, you just told someone who has Tourette syndrome, I'm sorry, but you're not worth it. Because, that got to me. Like, It really got to me so bad. Like, that's when I knew. Like, I thought I have to do something. Like, if no one else is going to do it, and so that's when the ball started rolling. Like, the more I started finding about Tourette's, I was like, no, I'm going to do this for Tourette syndrome. I'm going to do it for, like, just pretty much all the kids coming up. Like I'm 40 years old. Like, yeah, like I can handle having Tourette's now, but there might be some like 16-year-old who's getting bullied online and picked on, who's probably going to take their life just because they don't know how to handle it. And I'm not going to sit back just because it's not sexy enough to say something about it. Like I'm going to make it sexy. I'm going to make people talk about it. I want everyone to know, yeah, I'm different, but I don't see you climbing Mount Kilimanjaro and you're normal and you can't do it.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm different, but I'm better. I'm a better type of different.
I love that. I love that so much. You mentioned, kind of connecting with the community, finding the podcast, and sort of realizing the scope of, the Tourette Australia, Tourette Canada, Tourette Association of America. And did you have much in-person interaction with anybody who has Tourette syndrome? Or, have you known anybody else who has Tourette syndrome?
No, no one. No one that I know. Like, sometimes I'll go out and I will see someone and I'll go, oh, like, I'll see the tics and things like that. And for some reason I pick it up really quick and I'm like, oh yeah, like, they have Tourette's. But sometimes I inherit other people's Tourette's.
Yeah, me too.
So like, I think there's a show on BBC, like Living with Tourette's or something like that. And I really want to watch it. So I keep seeing clips and stuff like that online, but I'm a bit like I want to watch it, but then I'm like, I'm also scared of getting new tics and inheriting new things.
That's me with this podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, no, there's no one that I know that has Tourette's. One of my friends, I told him, like, we were just talking about something. I'm like, oh, look, I've got Tourette syndrome. And he was the first person that said, oh, but you don't swear. You don't turn around and go, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm like, yeah, but that's not Tourette's. That's not the only part of Tourette's. But then he was like, oh, yeah, one of my friends had Tourette syndrome. So I kind of like, it felt good for me to say something. It's like, like, I don't have to explain it. He knows, he knows about me, type of thing. But yeah, no, I don't really have any other friends or anyone like that I can connect with. Anyone that I see on Twitter that I see they're doing something with Tourette's or they have Tourette's, like I follow them and things like that. But yeah, that's as close as I come to having actual friends with Tourette's syndrome.
Well, I mean, it's really cool that you're getting kind of dialed in with the community, and I'm still working on that myself. But it seems like every single time I talk to someone like you, or just anybody else who has Tourette syndrome, and again, I mean, this is not anything I ever talked about with anybody else other than very close people to me before this year. Since launching the podcast and all the conversations I've had on it, it has benefited me tremendously, and I'm definitely susceptible to other people's tics and kind of picking up, if something kind of like mirrors one of my tics in a way or is kind of similar to it, my tic will kind of evolve a little bit to kind of become what I just heard about. Or if it's like an arm stretching tic or something that you were talking about earlier, that's something I might end up doing. And I hear that from a lot of people. But even with all of that, I don't see it as any inconvenience at this point, just because I feel so enriched and better learning from people like you and talking with people like you. I mean, it's definitely a free therapy session, and I walk away with a lot. And I definitely want to follow more of what you're doing with the climb. Is there going to be any sort of pre-coverage or and maybe with the climb itself, is there going to be any sort of video footage or any sort of multimedia that people can access?
Yeah, I'm working on a website that will hopefully be up in the next month. Well, I'm going to just show my training for the lead up to it. I started posting a few things online, like on my Instagram of my training. I'm still trying to work out how to do all that type of stuff. Like I'm trying to start a vlog where like just like one day a week, I'm just going to document everything I've been doing. So yeah, there is going to be a website coming up. Everything's under my name, Dimi.
And could you spell it real quick for anybody who wants to look it up?
Yeah, so Dimi is Dimi, Kaliv, Kaaliev. Yeah, just check that in Google. I'm the only person who's got that name, so I'll show up all over the place. And yeah, Instagram. So I've got an Instagram page, a Twitter page, and a Facebook page. I'm not so active on the Facebook page, but I'm hoping I will be. But yeah, Twitter and Instagram pretty much is where I am. And if I find anything interesting Tourette's related on Twitter, I always repost it and share stories like that. And all my training and things like that will be on Instagram. But for the actual climb, I am hoping to take like a few cameras with me, and cause I think it takes 8 days. So I do want to climb. Like I said, I want to do it at the start of Tourette Awareness Month, and by the time I get up, come back down, I'll have a whole bunch of footage and photos and things like that.
Nice.
Then edit maybe a little 10-minute documentary type of thing of just showing the climb and why I'm doing it and everything, and hopefully get that out to the community and to the world that everyone can see.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah, and so I'm slowly making a list of like media outlets and things like that I want to talk to, let them know what I'm doing, and see if they want to share it. But yeah, for now, everything's just on my social media.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to include links in the show notes just so people can get to know you. I'm blown away by the initiative that you're taking. I want to make, this is always sort of the point in the interview where I have to kind of cover my bases and make sure there's nothing I forgot to ask or failed to ask. Is there anything kind of connected to all of this that we haven't talked about yet?
If anyone with Tourette's that's online, or parents or anyone like that, if they do want to talk to someone, they're more than welcome to connect with me online and talk to me if they have any questions. I'm trying more and more to be open with them, talk to people, and so if anyone wants to connect with me online, I'm more than happy to talk to them. If they want to do anything, I'm there to support them as well.
And have you, and you don't even have to answer this if you don't want to, but have you kind of opened up the possibility of sponsorships or anybody else who wants to kind of help promote what you're doing?
Well, yeah, I've kind of just started looking into sponsorship. There's a few. I always aim really high. So there's a few really big brands that I'm going to start talking to.
Coca-Cola?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few sports brands and things like that I want to try contact.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to this guy. He's a photographer, a filmmaker. And I told him, this is what I want to do. In the next few weeks, can we get together, make a whole little short, clips and videos and things like that I can send out to these people, and hopefully they'll get behind me and sponsor me. But yeah, if anyone's out there, guest that wants to sponsor me, yeah, I'm more than happy taking one on.
Well, man, just as the last little bit that we can wind into here, if there are new listeners to this podcast all the time, and they discover this podcast either because they have Tourette syndrome or they have a loved one with Tourette syndrome, somebody in their family. Either way, they're trying to learn more about it. Just kind of your experience and where you've taken it. If there are any parents listening or someone who was recently diagnosed and they kind of want to know what the world is about for them at this point, what would you say to them? Just anybody who comes up and says, what's in store for me as somebody who was just diagnosed with Tourette syndrome?
Well, first, if it's a parent or someone like that, probably the quicker answer is, be open with your child. Let them know what it is. Go online, see if you can find other people that have it, and it might be hard for the parent to watch and go to the kid. See this person. This is what's going to happen to you, and you might think you're hurting their feelings, but
yeah.
It's better for them to know what's coming instead of finding out by having someone making fun of them or picking on them and things like that. At least that way they can explain it. And if it's someone who's just been diagnosed or has it, don't be ashamed of what you have. I don't think I'll be the person I am today without Tourette syndrome. What I've seen from my friends, and I'm the odd one out of all my friends, and I'm the one who has Tourette syndrome. Mm-hmm. I have a fearless attitude when it comes to things. I'm not scared of failing. I'm not scared of being put down. I'm not scared of the way people look at me. I feel like I can accomplish anything, and if that's what Tourette syndrome has brought me, why would you want to take that away? Don't be ashamed of what you have.
Thanks for listening. Thanks so much to Dimi for being an amazing guest with an amazing story. I don't know who we've got in the audience in the way of sponsors or large companies that may be able to reach out to Dimi, maybe give him some support for what he's about to do, just anything to help get the word out, help his climb be a success, a very visible success. Like he said, you can find him online. I'll have his information in the show notes at tourettespodcast.libsyn.com. Or you can email me and I'll coordinate. tourettespodcast@gmail.com. Definitely got to do a plug again for the Facebook discussion group, the Tourette's Podcast discussion group on Facebook. Shout out, as always, to Sophia for being an amazing admin. Give her a big thank you the next time you're signed on. And if you haven't signed up yet, it's really easy. Tourette's Podcast discussion group on Facebook. So again, I'm on the road right now. I'm traveling, and there might be a noticeable kind of darkness to my social media accounts. But I'll get back with everybody as soon as I can. Again, emails to tourettespodcast@gmail.com. We'll talk to you soon. This is Ben.